Biohazard is an original vigilante character for a TTRPG. The actual game is entirely built by the two GMs and takes very little inspiration from any other TTRPGs except for Marvel's multiverse game in its early stages. The plot places our characters in a DC comic world, directly after a worldwide war known as the Unity War. The Justice League is long gone, and your custom hero gets to play as a part of what's called the Singularity. Basically, a less organized and small group of heroes, anti-heroes, and vigilantes trying to better the world during its post-war rebuild. In this world, the evils of the DC universe have had a chance to run rampant, since the world's main protectors are completely gone. With this, underground operations like the DNA Project, the League of Shadows, Court of Owls, and more have become iron fists, dominating the underground and leaking into the world above. In some ways, this is how Biohazard came to be. The Project Biohazard, also given the alias Kira Ray, was created by a great evil for one singular purpose: to wipe out heroes. To be the ultimate superweapon, she was a carbon-made entity, formed to look like a young adult human female. Built from hero DNA taken from various fallen heroes during the time prior to the Unity War. She was made as a weapon for Apocalypse, to kill the Justice League. Kira was a volatile mess of imbalanced DNA, and therefore Project Biohazard took a backseat. She was made to infiltrate and deceive, but as a war begun in the stars, her purpose became unnecessary. As the Justice League went off planet to fight a war that they would never return from, Biohazard was forgotten. For a long time, she floated like liquid in a test tube. Her unbalanced parts began to break down, floating with the liquid, her mind itself just barely conscious enough to know what she was made for, as if her mind was floating adrift too, until the very facility she was rested in began to shake, as if the earth was coming to life around her. She woke up. Kira felt panic. The person standing before her was a red blur, as if the man himself was on fire. She heard talking and gunfire rattling her ears. Part of her was annoyed. She was just trying to get her rest after all. The other part was curious, thinking that the man before her had sparked some sort of interest in her. Off to the side, a man with a gray suit and owl-themed attire walked towards the control panels next to her chamber. She felt a gust of energy burst through her as she was sprung fully awake. The noise of her chamber's heart rate monitor flatlining hit her ears, disconnecting slowly from its interfacing. "This is the last time I clean up your mess," she heard the suited man say as the blurry, flaming being disappeared. Her form stabilized, and the chamber opened with a puff of steam. She wobbled, walking like a baby deer for the first time as she exited her chamber, holding precautiously onto its frame. She stumbled out, studying her form with intense scrutiny. She didn't recognize her company. There was also another test tube beside her, another subject of Cadmus testing that was being released from their chamber. Who were these people, and what was going on? Questions quickly surfaced in her brain, but even more present was the instinct in her body that she needed to run, to fight. Her carbon symbiote was bubbling inside as she felt its hesitancy. But the gray-suited man was not who it was bothered by. She looked around the room as the man from the chamber donned a scientist's coat and some other clothes to get dressed, and Kira quickly became aware of her situation. Her carbon bubbled over her skin, creating her combat suit around her, donning her with a skin-tight black suit, white boots, and a white and yellow blazer. She looked like a hero, as the suit was designed to, with a superhero-style mask and her hair being lifted out of the way into a ponytail. Her gray eyes became a staunch white. She felt more comfortable now, her symbiote still urging from inside her to act, slowly stabilizing her form as it did so. "Who are you?" Kira snapped at the owl. "Why have you released me, and what is your purpose?" The man noticed her aggression and hesitancy all at once, answering each question with just enough detail. He explained that she could call him Dave, and he was releasing her under someone else's orders, that the place was under attack and she wouldn't survive if she stayed put. The other project introduced themselves by their name, and Kira, out of confusion, stated, I'm Biohazard, I suppose. That's what they call me. She paused. Though, if we're introducing each other based on first names, I'm Kira. The other project asked what was going on as well, causing Kira's confusion to further from more confusing explanations. She didn't remember where she was, honestly. She knew this was Cadmus, but everything going on now was just peak confusion. What year was it? What was the state of her mission? When was the last time she was briefed? She had no information on these people either. She always had information on targets, so this must not be a target, she pondered. She had to quickly make up her mind. What was clear to her right now is that her internal life force, her symbiote, it trusted these people more than something else. So she had to trust them too, until more things were clear. What do we do? Kira asked, placing the man who seemed in charge at the top of her list of priorities. Dave explained that the people outside were going to try and kill her, Cadmus Project or not, and it was either we kill them first or stay here to be tortured to death. Kira, believing it or not, made her decision. The other project did too, busting down the door without hesitation and rushing into a battle, making Kira wince at the dullness of one's mind to have to do such a thing. Fighting with no knowledge of the aggressor was doable. It was understandable to do when no information could be given out about the present target. Not in this case, though. Having just woken, having no idea what lay beyond the door, it was casual suicide. At this point, what else could Kira do but follow suit? Besides, let the other project be attacked first to see what might be in store. Unfortunately, that was quickly proved to be the wrong decision. As the other project faced off an undead, balloon-like man, and by popping open the old carcass, released a grotesque smell of rot through the room and hall, making Kira gag at the first scent of the stench. She quickly formed herself a gas mask out of carbon and other materials present, before bashing in some of the giant undead, releasing gas and molded organs and blood out into the room, finding some happiness in seeing the other project falter at the scent in some sixth sense of payback. Kira and the project continued to battle through, more undead, large bond-like creatures, and more, until reaching a ground level where a large pumpkin man blocked their path, his body round and orange. Kira at this point was starting to enjoy this, beating these targets nearly senseless. She attacked first. With one of her favorite powers, she connected with the orange pumpkin's bulbous stomach and drained the cells in its skin of water, pulling it out of him as she slowly watched the pumpkin's stomach deflate and become flat and rotten. The creature, still alive, wailed in utter discomfort and pain. Somehow, for some reason, it was music to Kira's ears. Kira's main power was elemental manipulation and control, but as any ordinary human may use it on the earth or the environment around them, Kira was a scientist at heart, and her favorite subject to study was biology, thus her project name, Biohazard. She was the hazard of material herself. She was made to rip the organ from bodies, oxygen from lungs, water from cells, iron from blood. She could boil the water in someone's veins or use a person's heat regulation against them. She was an illness. She was made to infect. One touch and the things she could do to you was endless. Just one bit of your DNA, and you were her puppet by design. Though why tell you such things when she could just show you? And boy, did she like showing it. As Pumpkin Man's seeds spewed across the room, growing into small pumpkin-themed bombs, she dodged and blocked herself from aggressive and messy explosions, popping what she could as her and her companions made their way out into the streets. Deep down, Kira was having fun, but her face showed nothing but seriousness and disgust as she kicked some of the pumpkin's slimy skin off her shoe. Kira was made to deceive after all. Seeing that someone knew nothing about her or was confused by the truth when it was shown was what made her happy. As they came out of the Cadmus facility, they found themselves standing on the edge of Gotham Harbor. Kira was seeing this city for the first time, clean and pristine, white flags on buildings and snow-lined streets. It actually seemed quite pretty, though David was quick to explain that this wasn't the Gotham they wanted, that the people who were trying to kill her just before weren't supposed to be here at all, and that somehow they had traveled to the wrong time. As he explained the usual Gotham, Kira questioned how this wasn't better, but she supposed the man who saved her may be right since she had never seen the world anyway. They explained that it was Christmas, though Kira had never celebrated it before. She understood what the holiday was in its basic sense. They quickly made their way to a place to rest, walking through a small grandfather clock and into what was David's abode. Confused as she was, Kira followed. The place was larger on the inside than it seemed it should be, adorned with dozens of branching rooms chock full with intense messes and assortments of various things. David then offered Kira and the other Project tea before explaining what it was he needed of them to help set the world right. Kira was immediately startled by this. Save the world? She questioned, with such staunch argument. That's not exactly in my programming, she explained quickly. What is then? Dave asked, in a simple yet calming way. Kira stared him down for a moment, before she was reminded that this was someone her symbiote trusted. So she felt it at least right to answer. To kill, she said simply at first, before then thinking over her deep objective. To kill the Justice League. I was made to be the ultimate bioweapon, to infiltrate the Justice League and kill them all from the inside, she explained. Is it what you wanted? David asked. Want wasn't a part of it. I don't get to want things. I'm not made for that. After fighting back and forth, David gave Kira the first gift she would ever receive. A choice. He offered her free will to make her own decision and asks that in return, she meet the rest of the team and help with their current mission. She hesitantly accepts, and for the first time, Kira's mind isn't just clouded with rage and directive. Her feelings seem to change as she realizes the twistedness of the joy she felt. Not that she's entirely lost it, but Kira sees herself as a monster in part, and realizes that maybe it's something worth changing. For a moment in time, a small weight is lifted, but just for a moment, before the fight is yet to continue.